Chancellor, whenever you're ready.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this Board of Trustees Ad Hoc Committee to advance in-language instruction. We welcome you all this afternoon. Thank you for your patience as we got into the Zoom this afternoon. We got a wonderful agenda to speak about and to provide some particular updates. We're going to start off with some welcome remarks from Trustee Buelna, who chairs this committee, and then we'll have reports and updates from the Vice Chancellor, Nicole Albo-Lopez, who will give us some updates on what's occurred with spring and fall 2023 courses and some observations. We'll spotlight the wonderful example at West Los Angeles College, the CD course that is there. We'll have Maria Veloz talk to us about what's going on at the state level with respect to our sponsored legislation, Assembly Bill 1096. I'll provide some district-wide perspectives, open up the discussion to you all, see for thoughts, reflections, reactions, future agenda items, and then we'll have our esteemed Dr. Buelna close. So Dr. Buelna, we'll kick off this meeting with you. Please provide some welcoming remarks to our community here. Por favor.
Hey, everyone. Before I begin, our Vice President of the Board, Michelle Henderson. Ms. Henderson, before I go, would you like to give some words? So we'll give Trustee Henderson until at the end of the meeting. The issue of language and how we interact between language is being discussed at now officially at different levels throughout the state and throughout the different systems. I think what is occurring now is we're beginning to get to the heart of matters with regard to legislation, with regard to funding, with regard to many of these issues. So today we'll try and go over some of the issues, and then kind of give some next steps. But I hope everyone sees this as a regular follow-up to what we've been discussing. So I'm not sure if Ms. Henderson would like to go. If not, Chancellor, back to you. We have a heavy agenda.
Okay. All right. Trustee Henderson, are you available? She may have just stepped off for a moment.
I am.
Oh, hi. We're just giving you an opportunity to say hello as we begin our agenda this afternoon. Again, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you, everybody, for joining. You know, this discussion should be very interesting, but also very important because of the legislation and the opportunity to really set a standard for the state. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Trustee Henderson, for joining us. Well, let's go ahead and begin. By way of context, you may recall when we began last fall, we had, through the advice, counsel, and guidance of this body, wanted to pilot some courses. So we did so in the 5-week winter session and started with a small number of courses that we thought that we could put in and see where the interests were. Well, that pilot led us to believe that a bolstering of courses the spring semester that we're in now would be indeed in order. So several dozens of courses have been put in. The Vice Chancellor will go over those, and those are also foreshadowing and forecasting the kind of work that we will continue to do beginning this fall. So again, it began with an idea, and we have put courses in. So let me turn it now to Vice Chancellor of Educational Programs and Institutional Effectiveness, Dr. Albo-Lopez, who will give us a much more thorough report. Nicole, please.
Good afternoon. I'm very excited that during this spring term, we have now scheduled and enrolled 60 individual sections of courses, mostly in the non-credit arena. We have enrolled 2,277 students. That's a duplicated number. We have 1,518 unduplicated, and many of them are new students to our district. Our fill rate for these classes is approximately 67%. which is just a little bit lower than our average for our non-credit in general at 69%. Or sorry, 72%, and our credit courses are at 69.4%. So we're definitely seeing an impact in regard to providing opportunities for our students across the district. A few of our programs are offering credit child development courses, but for the most part, we're seeing things in our vocational education series, auto diagnostics and repair, elementary, or the elements of cooking techniques, baking skills, and the like. So as we move into the summer and the fall, those schedules are still being finalized and the course flags are being placed on them. But you're definitely seeing almost a double the number of courses this spring versus all of last year in this area. So very exciting work that everybody's engaged in, and it's wonderful to see that we're opening these opportunities to students that we may not normally see across our threshold.
Dr. Albo-Lopez, can you give us a sense of credit versus non-credit, where the propensity of courses are, and if we have clusters of disciplines that are signaling where there might be more interest?
So child development seems to be the one area on the credit bearing side that we've seen scheduled historically and then also currently. And then on the non-credit side, we're seeing some fundamental courses like keyboarding and working with computers, some of the health care industry basics, such as working in home health care aid, first aid and CPR. And then there's another block that are really kind of workplace readiness and helping students be able to succeed in the workplace, whether that be resume writing, interviewing, or just interpersonal communications.
Okay. And I understand that we've also have paired some of our courses to things like GED and Spanish and whatnot, to help build some of the language capacity, et cetera. So I think that's occurring at West.
Correct, and I believe we have folks speaking to that today, but the
Okay.
of students that they do have in their child development program are also GED students, and then they're also taking ESL courses. Oh,
excellent. Okay. All right. Dr. Buelna, I see a couple of hands. I'll go ahead and facilitate that.
Thank you.
Okay. So DAS in the house. Professor Chévere, ¿cómo estás? Buenas tardes.
Muy bien, gracias. Let's see. Yeah, this is very exciting. And I just wanted to also mention that there was a very positive reception to this legislation, the 1096 at the state level with the academic senate.
Great.
And you know, the requirement for the ESL course has been perceived as a barrier. It seems to have been perceived as a barrier across the state to serve this community. So I wanted to ask a couple of questions. You mentioned that you had about 2,700 enrollments, and then the unduplicated count was lower. I can't remember if you could repeat the exact amount. And then could you give us, could you give us a breakdown by language? What languages is the instruction occurring in at this point? So thank you.
Sure. So the enrollment is 2,277, and the head count is 1,518. And then most of the classes, with the exception of two, one is in Russian and one is in Korean. The remainder are in Spanish.
Okay, thank you.
And one more number of that 1518, how many new students are in that bunch?
I have, give me just a second.
Sure. Okay. Because that's those are new students who otherwise are attracted to our institutions because of these courses. So that's a new audience for us. Pretty exciting number. I remember hearing a number earlier when the numbers were just starting off, and I was impressed that a good number, about 1/3 to 40%, it might even be more for new students. Well, we can verify that.
Yeah, it looks like the last report I had was 871.
So 871 out of the 1518. That's over 50%. That's outstanding. Outstanding. Okay, good work.
These are new, absolutely new students.
They were students that have not been enrolled with us for at least 2 years. So
Isn't that a big number?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'm not being
Outstanding.
facetious in asking that question, by the way.
No, we're gonna, when we get to the legislative piece, we're gonna update our numbers because that's significant. I'll leave it at that. Doctor, anything else? Any other questions? Angela?
For now, I'm good. I maybe on the GED piece, could you clarify how that would work?
Yeah, what, can we leave that to the presentation? Because we're gonna spotlight West LA, and that's the component of their course. And if your questions is not answered, then we'll come back to that. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
If I can ask one question, Mr. Echeverri, could you be available to Ms. Veloz and Vice Chancellor Albo-Lopez after? Because I think it's important to know some of the comments that were given to you, because I think that could be used up in Sacramento specifically in real time right now. I think they would find it helpful. So we're going to stay on after the public session of this to go over some potential closed items. And if you could stick around, please.
Yes, I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, other hands, questions, reactions? Help me, Ben. I can't see everybody. Any other hands?
Yeah, I don't see any others.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Albo-Lopez. We'll come back. Okay, let's move on now to the spotlight. We had mentioned West Los Angeles College. So go ahead, tee it up, Dr. Albo-Lopez, please.
sorry, what? I don't see the agenda for the next.
Oh, we're spotlighting West Los Angeles College. I think we have a couple of professors who are here.
Yes, and we've got, I think Jeff Archibald, the vice president. He wants to give an overview and then introduce the faculty.
Yes, and I see Jim Limbaugh here as well. Thank you so much, Jim. I'm going to pass it to you. Thank you. I'm sorry, not everybody was coming up on my screen. Hi, Jim. President Jim Limbaugh, West Los Angeles College. Let's go ahead and tee this up. Let us know which colleagues are here, and then let's go ahead and let's give a nice spotlight to West LA. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, thank you, Chancellor Rodriguez, and thank you to all for your interest in learning more about this. West is very proud of the fact we've offered the first 4-credit class, but I take no credit for this at all. I defer to my colleagues, Dr. Jeff Archibald, who is the Vice President for Academic Affairs, and our faculty who are also in the room, Dr. Dolores Gallegos and Dr. Monica Juarez. So what we'd like to do is give you an overview of the program. Jeff has a couple of slides he wanted to be sharing with you. But I do want to say that the time I spent over there that one morning when Trustee Buelna and Chancellor Rodriguez and several other folks were there was probably one of the most gratifying times in recent memory to see the real purity of education and what can be done when you shift resources to a group of students that really want to learn. So with that, Jeff, I will hand it over to you to do your PowerPoints, and then Monica, Dolores, you all are the brains and the passion behind all of this, so be sure to assist Jeff with further explaining the program for benefit of our colleagues. Jeff?
Thanks, Dr. Limbaugh. Yeah, I will ask Dr. Juarez and Dr. Gallegos to jump in at any point if they want to embellish what I have to say. I just kind of did a bare bones sketch of what the program looks like at West, just with some basic details for you, and so you can kind of see the outline and the goals of what we're trying to do. I will say this all came from the mind of Dr. Gallegos. She has been our warrior on the front lines for this, and had this idea and said, I want to try this, and Trustee Buelna has encouraged her, and we want to support her every step of the way with this. So I'll just share my screen really quick if that's all right. I have just a couple of quick slides.
Yes, it should be set up so you can share screen.
Great. So we're doing a child development cohort of in-language instruction at West. We currently have 38 students enrolled in this cohort. We had 40 at the start of the semester. Preparations for this began months ago, and we worked through the fall semester actually and winter to gauge student interest. we have one of our faculty rock stars, Bonnie Perez, is unable to make the meeting today, but she's actually doing some of the Spanish instruction, and she is amazing and had some connections and started to spread the word. And through word of mouth, we had more than 100 students that expressed interest in taking Spanish language instruction and child development. About 50 to 60 students attended information sessions in Spanish that were conducted by discipline faculty. Drs. Gallegos and Juarez and Professor Perez conducted those information sessions to tell the students what was involved to help guide them through the admissions process. I think what's important about this cohort is that nearly all of the students do not have a high school diploma. From the data that I got from Professor Perez, 38 out of the 40 students who started with us do not have qualifications for the AB 540 exemption or waiver. And they would need either, they would need a high school diploma for that or equivalency. And so part of our program is to help these students obtain their GED, their high school equivalency, so that they can then qualify for further education under the AB 540 guidelines. The enrollment in the GED class also has another nice benefit for these students, which the enrollment in the GED class qualifies these students as being adult dual enrollment under SB 554, which makes the credit course then free of charge to the students. So for this initial cohort, as we move them through to get their associate teacher permit, the credit courses will be free for them. When they obtain their GED, then we'll assist them with the AB 540 exemption and continuing on to either obtain a certificate or degree if that's what their intention is. So really the goals of the program were to have them take these 4 credit courses in child development that are required to earn their preschool associate teacher permit and then obtain a better paying job. At the same time, having them obtain high school equivalency to complete the GED exam and then apply for that AB 540 exemption and financial aid if they wish to complete a degree or a certificate. And so we have planned to offer the 4 courses that they need for the preschool associate teacher certificate in Spanish. So our first cohort is going on right now, spring 2023. Those students are taking Child Development 1, which is Child Growth and Development. They're also taking a VESL vocational ESL class that is specialized around developmental theory in early childhood education. And then they're taking their GED high school equivalency prep course in Spanish as well. And we've been doing GED prep in Spanish for several semesters now, but it nicely mixed with this idea to do a credit program as well. In the fall, that same cohort's going to continue with us. The students are really excited to continue with their education. So we're going to be offering Child Development 2, Early Childhood Principles and Practices, a different VESL course so that they continue to learn the terminology around their career path and then continue on with the GED prep. And then our plan right now is to start a second cohort in the Child Development 1, so that first stage of the sequence. And we currently have about 60 students who have expressed interest, and many of it's word of mouth. Many of the students who are in our current cohort are telling friends and family that they need to come to West, which is how a lot of them wound up in the current cohort in the first place. So that's just a real quick overview of what we're doing with the program. I will ask our faculty who are here if they have anything to add.
Said it perfectly, Jeff.
Thank you both for supplying the information.
Okay, excellent presentation. Thank you to West Los Angeles College for exercising not just the leadership, but the vision to serve and doing so in such a powerful way. So let's open it up. Any questions for our colleagues at West? Yes, Ms. Barajas, how are you? Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, West LA. I was wondering if the faculty could share some strategies that they use to get the courses officially kind of approved at the curriculum committee. I know that a lot of discussions have happened at the credit level as to whether the courses can articulate, and clearly this is a beautiful program design for workforce, but I'm just wondering if you can speak to that from the faculty perspective.
I don't know if Dr. Gallegos can speak. She's off-site. We talked to our curriculum chair, and he was very excited. And it just told us if we're going to change the core, absolutely nothing has been changed in the core. It is a pilot program. So he gave us the green light and said, as long as you're not changing the core, you're following the SLOs, you're following the objectives, you should be good to go. And under the advisement of this committee, we definitely partnered it with an ESL course. So the students are getting the language. Hopefully, by the time they finish their 4 courses, many of them are actually interested in getting their AA degree. So they will have to make a shift into English language. I hope that answers. Dr. Gallegos, did you want to add anything else?
That was perfectly said. Yeah, we also incorporated the GED component because many of them told us that they hadn't received their high school diploma. So because there's a high interest in them transferring, they want to get their AA and transfer to a university. We told them that they had to get their GED. So that's the other component to it. So it's a 3-for-1 that they're really excited and really stepped up and are doing the job, because at the end of the day, many of these students actually were professionals in their native land, if you will. So they know rigor, they know what's expected when it comes down to working hard. So it's nothing out of the ordinary for them when it comes to the workload. What it was the language barrier. That's what they were encountering. So yeah, thank you, Monica.
Thank you. And it doesn't have to be now, but it would be great, because I think one of the biggest discussion items that happens in the credit area, because as Dr. Albo-Lopez mentioned earlier, non-credit has really is like over 90% of over like 85% of the course offerings. But the articulation issue, I keep hearing that keeps bubbling up. So it'd be great to get at some point, have a little clarification if there's any concern from an articulation perspective. As you said, if for the students, for those who want to potentially transfer, if there's any concern, but that could be at another time. But great work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question. And I go quickly to the question in the chat. Please describe your scheduling model from Professor Galindo. I think some offer was given and some description was given, but is there anything more, Vice President Archibald, that you'd like to say about the scheduling model?
We have one of the courses scheduled Monday evenings. Dr. Juarez is teaching that course. We have a course scheduled on Saturday mornings, and then I don't remember when the third course is scheduled.
After the child development credit course. So as soon as they finish my course, they go directly into the vessel course, and then GED on Saturday. This is keeping in mind that this was a grassroots effort from Bonnie Perez, and she reached out to so many local nannies and private caregivers, and they requested evening in-person courses, as technology has been an ongoing issue, but thanks so much to our administration. They were recently afforded a computer. So now we're going to work on the technical skills, but they require in-person evening or Saturday morning classes.
Yeah. So all 3 classes are scheduled in person on West's campus. And I don't think so our scheduling model was really, these were the times when we were hearing there was a need, evenings, weekends. And because we did the information sessions months in advance before the cohort even enrolled, they knew that these were the days and times when they'd have their classes. So I think we were able to do the prep work that way. As we start to roll out additional cohorts, I think we'll have to have a conversation. We're actually having a meeting tomorrow, a local meeting among the faculty, our admissions staff, and myself to kind of work through some of the issues to make sure that as we roll out additional cohorts, everything is still going seamlessly for keeping the students engaged, for scheduling the classes at times that are convenient and whatnot. So I will say it's very much been a building the plane as we fly scenario. We are working out the details as we discover them, and that scheduling piece with more than one cohort will be the next piece.
And can you repeat the conditions by which, under that Senate bill, the credit course that can be free of cost?
The students must be enrolled in a high school equivalency prep course.
Okay.
And so because they're enrolled in the GED course, they qualify under the adult dual enrollment, and they can take up to a certain number of units. And I want to say 12, but I don't think the numbers, I could be wrong on that. And those are no cost to them. And so we don't have to waive any fees. We just have to assist the students with filling out the correct paperwork to receive the adult dual enrollment. And then one of the big challenges, and I won't say big challenge, but one of the things we had to make sure, because this is the first group that's really been doing this, is that they're flagged in the system as adult dual enrollment. We have to get them, make sure that the student information is flagged as being part of an adult dual enrollment program.
Excellent, excellent advice there. Okay, and I appreciate Professor Juarez answering the other question in the Zoom there. So let's go back. I see a hand, Professor Echeverry.
Yes, thank you. So I do have a question about the students who don't need the high school GED, because you mentioned that while most of them don't have their high school equivalency, a few do. So how do you handle those students? And do the students in the cohort have to attend all 3 classes, or can some of them pick and choose? So I'm just curious. Thank you.
There we go. So no, so those students do not take the GED class. So they don't come on Saturday, but they're there on Monday with Professor Juarez, and then they take the Vessel class right after. I'm not sure how they're coded in regards, because that's admission side that's above my pay grade, like they say. But I know in regards to they don't pick and choose, if you will. They can only tell us we don't have, or we do have a GED, and then we don't assign them in that class. But what they get to pick is the child development and then their Vessel class. They know that that's what they're signing up for. And again, like Professor Juarez mentioned, the COR stays the same. So there is no addendums or anything like that to our core. So we still teach what we teach in English and in Spanish. So
And then what, yes, yes,
I
great.
believe the number was that 38, I think it was 38 out of the initial 40 students that enrolled did not have a high school equivalency. So we haven't really had as much to deal with. We only had a couple of students.
Okay.
And I think some of that rose because encouraging some of these students to apply for their AB 540 exemption for the in-state tuition, it was discovered many of these students didn't have a high school equivalency. So then it became, okay, now we have another option for them that we can do. And I know that the folks that were helping them get enrolled were trying to help the students that needed it work with our Dream Center to get their AB 540 paperwork filled out so that they would be eligible there.
Great. And then just one last question on the Vessel course that is coupled with a child development course. Was that course designed for that particular coupling, or is it more of a general Vessel course? The ESL class that is coupled.
That Vessel course is actually was created by LACCD College, I believe about 5 years ago, along with their ALAS program, if I'm not mistaken. And it was specifically for Child Development 1. So it mirrors the content exactly perfectly. In the future, we will probably be using a more generic course, ESL course. And I believe it just got passed through curriculum this past week.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I see a couple of hands from our colleague presidents. If you don't mind, Dr. Limbaugh, I'll start with Dr. Culpepper. LA Southwest, Cougar Pride in the house.
Thank you, Chancellor. Hey, I just want to ask, is there a white paper? You probably already putting this out, something that helps us to understand which courses you're offering and maybe some insights and how to go about doing it on a broader scale. We would love to try to scale it up here. I know we're offering a few. That's my first question. And the second question is, I put a question in the chat for Vice Chancellor Lopez. If you have a breakdown by college, that would be helpful as well, so we can see where we are with our process.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
I will say we don't currently have a white paper, but it sounds like a really good idea. We'll get Doctora Gallegos on that shortly after. Again, as I mentioned before, we are sort of building the plane as we fly. This was an idea. We had the strong backing of Trustee Buelna, and we've moved forward with it. But now that we have, I think, a semesters of experience under our belt, we know where the pitfalls were. We know where we could have done better. That's what our meeting for tomorrow is really about, our internal team. To ensure that as we do this going forward, we have a more replicable model. I will say scaling it, one of the issues that we might run into scaling, technology access has been a huge challenge for these students. And we've been able to serve this group of students by providing them some computer access in this cohort if we were running multiple cohorts and multiple different areas, I don't know that we could scale the level of technology access that the students need. And so that's something that I think we need to consider district-wide going forward. When the day that Chancellor Rodriguez and Trustee Buelna came out there, we talked to the students, and the number of them that identified no access to technology in their home, whether it was internet or computer, was staggering.
Right.
It reinforced the need for what we're doing, but also that technology is a huge hurdle as the district attempts to scale this program up moving forward.
Yeah, fair comment. Yes. And so for now, Dr. Culpepper, I'd say that reach out to our colleagues over at West as you start to build considerations for summer, fall. You've got some, we're experimenting, and some of this is working. So we've come a long ways in the last 8 months since we started to begin the kernel of this idea. Okay, let's move on to President Limbaugh. I see your hand. Excuse me.
Just a quick comment about lessons learned. Make sure that your folks in support services understand the unique needs of these students, because this is sort of like I bet when you all started the bachelor's degree, it's a different group of students with a different set of needs. And so it sort of took our financial aid office and our admissions office by surprise initially as to how exactly to handle it and how to explain it to these students. So we encourage you all to pay attention to the pieces that go into getting them into school. And some of the things that we take for granted, they could not comprehend because it's such a new world. And then there's the language issue. So I do encourage you all to reach out to the folks at West. We've been through trial by fire now, so we're figuring out how to do it. But I do encourage, and also make sure that your faculty, I think it's fair to say, Monica, Dolores, you all ended up being counselors, confidants, den mothers, and about a little bit of everything, helping these individuals become comfortable in an environment that they'd only dreamed about. So just wanted to bring that piece to light as well. Thank you.
No, excellent points. And if I could add, to have staff at your A&R and other locations that are bilingual in whatever other language you're considering offering the course as well, so they can receive some competency in that, technical competency in that area as well. Okay.
I'll just say that as we prep for the next group, one of the lessons that we've learned is that the faculty did fantastic jobs with the information sessions for students, letting them know what they were getting into, what the courses were going to be like, what the outcomes hopefully would be. Our next step is to actually place a bilingual counselor, a bilingual admissions rep in those information sessions so that we can roll, because the students were ready to go. Monica and Dolores talked to them and they were ready to run through a wall at that point. They were good to go. But then following that up with immediate support from admissions, from financial aid, from counselor on site in a computer lab so that those students could immediately begin the process. That's our next iteration that we're going to roll out to make sure that that support is right there and the students don't have to. We discovered that too many times they're being told, come back, and they're not going to come back. So we've got to provide everything for them in one place right then and there, one stop.
That's right. Professor Gallegos, you want to add to that?
Yes, and just to really reinforce the whole part that Jeff is talking about, we also have to be very mindful, and I'm very overprotective now than ever. And and thank you to Dr. Buelna for trusting on this idea, right? But they really need the hands-on. They really need a lot of the empowering them and not enabling them. And the thing is, they understand that this is so important that they can't do a lot of things online yet. And that's something that I told them, they will pick up that marathon sprint, if you will, later on. But right now they are requesting face-to-face. They want to be not online. And so that's another thing that a lot of people are like, well, we can put it online. It can be an online program. And I say, with all due respect, don't do that to us. Don't do that to the students, because they really need to have that perfect moment of achievement. And it's through really face-to-face. And online, we don't get that as well. So thank you so much.
Okay. No, thank you. Good words to share there. We'll take one more question here, Dr. Barajas, and then I see there's another question that we'll have folks answer in the chat.
Hi, it's actually kind of from the lessons learned from West LA, I'm wondering if there's an opportunity here, Chancellor and Trustee Buelna, to do a kind of a student support audit. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I meant like just really kind of figure out, are the pieces and places at our collective institutions to be able to, as President Limbaugh mentioned, to be able to serve this population. I mean, so as we're scaling up and we're having more marketing aspects, do we have individually at our campuses that infrastructure? Because sometimes like at East, we've really built it and we've strengthened it. Of course, there's always opportunities to continue to improve. But when we have a student that is coming from like the other side of town, it's sometimes difficult to refer because maybe some of the student supports or the hours aren't there where there could be true bilingual or multilingual assistance and get a clarity on that. Just wondering if that's an opportunity if we have that.
Well, I would answer that immediately by there's several of my colleague presidents who are here who are listening to this as well. And all of us have been involved with providing these supportive environments to build this particular program. So I'll ask them to consider taking an assessment of their local conditions and to see where the gaps might be. But this is clearly an audience, the adult learner audience that we have invested in and will continue to do so. All right, I'm going to ask us to move on, just be mindful of time here. I'm going to turn it now to, and thank you to the West LA team. Outstanding work. A few things to say about that in just a moment. Also, let me just now go to our bill. As you know, we've sponsored a bill. Mr. Fong has authored Assembly Bill 1096. We are the lead sponsor. We went last week to do the extra work involved with getting legislation across the finish line. And I'll ask Ms. Veloz to tell us where we're at, where the bill is, and what lies ahead. Ms. Veloz.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good afternoon, everyone. As the Chancellor mentioned, the bill was scheduled for the Assembly Higher Education Committee last Tuesday, April 25th. That was the first hearing for the bill. And Chancellor Rodriguez testified. The bill was approved by the committee 12-0. It got out unanimously with Republican votes, by the way. So the bill was now referred to the Assembly floor. It is a non-fiscal bill, so it bypassed the Appropriations Committee and went directly to the floor. It's on third reading, so it could be taken up now off the floor. I was informed this morning that Mr. Fong will probably take it up on Thursday. So on Thursday, the bill will be presented on the floor. And after that, it will then be referred to the Senate. So it starts the process all over again with Policy Committee and then the Senate floor. There is a possibility if we amend the bill that they may revert it to make it a fiscal bill, and then if that happens, then it will have to go to Senate Appropriations. But so far, the bill, it's building momentum. We are continuing to collect letters of support for the bill. And we will be doing this week a massive push to get other community college districts to support the bill. Now that the bill has left the Assembly Higher Ed Committee, it'll be a little easier to get districts to come on board and support the bill. So that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. And if it passes the Assembly, which we hope it will, and passes the Senate, which we hope it will, it goes to the governor's desk for signature, then it becomes law. So that's a process between now and it could be any time this summer or even up to late September. So it is a long process that we're carefully monitoring. And again, we've received quite a bit of support, and we'll be expecting additional support from different groups in support of this. So, Dr. Chavity, it'd be wonderful to get a letter from our ASCCC colleagues in support of this, if they're so inclined to do so through their advocacy committee.
And let me mention that if the bill does get amended, it will have to go back to the assembly for concurrence before it gets to the governor's desk. So ideally, you don't want your bill to be amended in the second house, but that's uncontrollable.
Are you expecting any amendments coming forward?
It's hard to say, if we're able to answer all the questions that come up without amending, that would be the most ideal situation. But, if we, sometimes the committee consultants will make recommendations for amendments to clarify different questions that come up. So it's really hard to say at this point.
And of course, we'll want to rely on our colleagues if we hear some amendments, so that there are not any unintended consequences to those in the classroom or to our students. So that's always key. And of course, if there are amendments that don't have any material impact, but can help the smooth sailing of the bill, then of course those will be considered by the author as well. But Mr. Fung is very clear on the intent, purpose, and is very proud to carry this bill. Okay, let's pause there and see if there are any questions for Ms. Veloz or any questions on the legislative process. Okay, I don't think I see any. Okay, well, good work, Maria. Thank you so much. Keep us posted on that. All right, let's move now to just some district-wide perspectives that I'm very pleased to offer. First, I'm going to start off with the West Los Angeles sort of spotlight. Then we put this on the agenda purposely. And I've seen this occur before with our faculty, and it's occurring now where the ingenuity, the heart, the intelligence, the will, the courage, and really the expertise of our faculty really comes through. And I've seen this on numerous occasions, and this is yet another occasion where we start with the student in mind, with success as our goal, and then look to each other as to support each other in a way so that we can remove barriers and ensure a smooth transition from a person's circumstance into one where education is now a common, and education can now be a accelerant and determinant of economic and social mobility. So I know on behalf of our Board of Trustees and our college presidents, we're incredibly proud of the ingenuity of our faculty and the support. And I saw it that one Saturday, and I've seen it before, multifold. So I wanted to commend Professor Gallegos, Professor Juarez, Ms. Bonnie, as she is called, and the West Los Angeles administrative team for really answering the question and really demonstrating a model that I think could be replicated. And I know that we have the interest and the capacity at other aid institutions to do the same. So looking forward to that. There's some crosswalk, if I could use that word, and other related conversations that are all fueling this idea of equity, this idea of inclusion, this idea of language as democracy. And these are wonderful manifestations of that. There is an adult education work group that is occurring under the leadership of Dr. Vanderwood and some other colleagues who are having conversations about bolstering adult education. We've rebranded adult education through our Elder Tree contract. You've seen some of that. We have a clasesgratis.org as a single location where students can go and sign up for our adult education classes by college district-wide without charge. That's just one demonstration of that. So I see an intersection and a nexus between what the faculty work group in adult education is doing. There's also a workforce development intersection and a nexus. Many of these students, if you talk to them and you ask them why they're in these courses, the answer is very clear: to get a better job, to prepare for a job, to reskill, to upskill, to learn and mastery in an area that would allow them again to participate in our regional economy. So it's very clear. This is a very skills-oriented work that moves people out of poverty, out of working conditions and wages that are not sustainable. So again, we should not ever underestimate the power of education. And I know we don't, this circle certainly doesn't, but the power to move folks through their current circumstances with education in their native language. Again, a powerful way to support what they're doing. So workforce development is clear. We've talked about some opportunity, and I wanted to sort of frame that there may be some additional faculty hires. I know we have 93 that are on the books to hire for the fall, and we're in discussion now about quite a few more. And we're not quite ready to launch that formally, but I know that the vice presidents of instruction and our college presidents are engaged in discussions there. And I would ask us to think about building full-time non-credit faculty as part of our core to assist us in doing precisely what it is that we're discussing today, and to other opportunities to attract, support, recruit, and ultimately graduate the hundreds of thousands of adult learners in Los Angeles County who could benefit from a higher education. As the high school numbers wane a little bit in terms of population, this other adult learner population is plentiful. And the institution that reaches out, that embraces, that shows cultural competency in its treatment of and respect for language and culture, I think is going to fare best with respect to supporting and again enrolling and graduating the students that we know we can serve very well in multiple languages. So that's something that I wanted to signal, and look forward to having additional conversations with our administrative team as that moves forward. So again, the initial statistic that I believe was illustrated by Dr. Albo-Lopez for me is very, very optimistic. Of the 2,800 or so, or the 2,200 plus individuals, 1,500 were students, and then of that 1,500, over 800 were new students. I mean, that's a wonderful model and a wonderful demonstration that if indeed we offer courses in language in the areas that students need, that employers need, that this region needs, that it's a very attractive opportunity for our students. So again, thank you for listening and indulging me just to provide some reflections with that. So we'll continue to move forward with that discussion. And again, your leadership and support has been absolutely exemplary in this model. So we're happy to entertain any questions or anything to clarify anything I've shared or anything that you've heard in today's conversation. So let's open it up now. And Ben, help me, please.
Leticia Barajas has her hand up, Chancellor.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Ms. Barajas.
Thank you. So I'm so excited, Chancellor, that you mentioned. And so for those of you, we for our presidential colleagues and our administrative colleagues, we have a very active non-credit disciplines committee. And we've been a part of the adult task force. So it's great, Chancellor, to hear that there's a commitment district-wide for additional non-credit hires. I think that's wonderful, even though we're not part of the fund. As you can see here, it could be of tremendous support. So I just wanted to reach out and say if there's any way we can be of support on that. We are very prepared. We are a mighty group, but we want to continue providing. Speaking on as chair of the disciplines committee, we're committed to continuing on on our journey to provide additional non-credit basic skills courses ranging from BESL and ESL to basic skills math and others to serve this entire community, because it's not just about AB 1705, which is a very specific population, but as you've echoed today and the example we have from West, this is really critical to serve the basic needs of our communities. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you. Only one word for you and our colegas who are in that space, prepárate, because this is an area of us that we're going to continue to support. This is, it's clearly within the framework for social justice and racial equity that we have put out very clearly in terms of including communities who have been historically underserved, marginalized, if you will, and whatnot. So this is our opportunity to do so. So appreciate everyone's leadership in this circle here, and look forward to continuing to provide the conditions and the resources where we can do our good work. Other questions, thoughts, reactions, reflections? I see Bill Everton. How you doing, Bill?
hanging in there. I just was, I
Thank-
was a little bit late. I was putting out a bunch of other fires.
Understood. No, thanks for joining us. Appreciate
But
it.
I just want to make sure that we're doing, I don't know if you saw it in the chats, but, we don't count towards the fund. Is there
That's
any
correct.
push from our legislative advocates and stuff at the state level to push towards
Well-
having that included?
Well,
I don't think
interesting.
you would get any pushback from the guild, and I mean, it's.
That's correct. Yeah, interestingly, we did sponsor a bill 3-4 years ago. And we may return to that, but it got technically complicated. So we had to pull the bill. I think it was Ms. Carrillo, if I'm not mistaken, who was helping to author that bill. We put in language that would count the fawn, and without getting into too much conversation, in order for that to occur, the technical requirements and some of the recounting of the fawn made it impossible to continue. So I'm hopeful that the environment now is different, and we can resurrect that, because my experience is that good ideas have a way of hanging around. So it'd be certainly one that we pursue. But short of that, there's still an interest.
It does still count towards the 50% that needs to go to classroom, correct? So
It does. So we're not in an environment where we're too much above fawn at the moment, but we could be. So that's certainly a possibility. So we'll look forward to the guild and other statewide support should that occur. Okay.
Is there any big pushback from management side on, I guess you might have seen it's now public record since it went across the table, on the fact that our enhanced non-credit gets funded the same, but we fund the instructors at a substantially reduced rate. And so we have some proposals to correct that. So hopefully maybe there'll be some interest in closing that particular gap.
Okay. All right. So noted, Bill. Thank you. All right. Angela, I see your hand. Hi.
Yeah, hi, I'm glad to see the unions in the house here, because there are some union issues that it may come up at some point, having to do with, number one, how do we determine language competency? How do we, pay people who have competency in another language to teach? And then also the evaluation piece, how do we evaluate faculty in a foreign language if the evaluators are not fluent in that language? So just a few things to think about. I'm very excited about serving this, vastly underserved student population. But as we scale up, I think we need to keep those things in mind so that we don't run into some landmines down the road. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I'm glad you have, and those are on our radar as we begin to develop and have this pilot, if you will, move into fruition and mature. So these are considerations that will have to be addressed. So agreed. Okay. Okay, we are now at the end here. Dr. Buelna, I'll pass it back to you to close us out.
Thank you. President Henderson, would you like to give some remarks before I give my remarks?
Thank you. I just want to say again, thank you all for your time and your diligence around in-language instruction and working with us to make sure that we not only provide the best services for our students in terms of academic support and outreach, but also that we're doing it in a way that can be duplicated by others to continue to set the lead in this state. So I truly appreciate all of the work that you're doing, but specifically Trustee Buelna and your leadership on this project. So thank you all.
Thank you, Trustee Henderson. I also want to thank you for your support and the entire board as well. I heard, Chancellor, I just want to confirm, I heard 875 new students met, right?
Let me ask Dr. Albo-Lopez to verify that it was over 800.
871.
Oh, okay, I added 4.
Okay.
I kind of wrote some notes down on some takeaways. 871 is a massive number, especially when we're talking about enrollment and what we've seen over the years. 871, for those who, since we're speaking other languages. That's a big number. The other one is the digital divide. I didn't realize how much potentially this would have on the digital divide conversation. And realize how much this would have on what we're talking about in-person learning and the use of our facilities. So these are like literally new stuff from this meeting. And you know, there's, you know, we've been talking about, you know, what, you know, oh my God, what's happening with enrollment? What's happening with enrollment? One of the hypotheses that we did have early on was that this would increase enrollment because you had a huge pool of folks that were simply being ignored by the system, right? We're not saying that the hypothesis is proven correct. We're saying there's a signal that the hypothesis is being proven correct. Now, since we know that, and we kind of have an early warning system, and that is kind of showing information, then that means our legislative team, Maria, I'm pointing to you, Maria, over there on my screen. You know, that word has to be spread. That 871 students were acquired by LACCD because of a specific operational policy implementation strategy that is occurring, right? That's a big deal, right? And that can't be ignored. However else everything parses out, how we got 871 new students, you can't ignore it. To ignore it would be almost criminal, okay? Then you had, where's Dr. Culpepper? Dr. Culpepper said something extremely interesting. Not you, Bill. Today I'm ignoring you, Bill. You're over there. You didn't say something interesting today. It was Dr. Culpepper. Dr. Culpepper said, hey, what's happening district-wide? I want to know. Dr. Culpepper, did I summarize that all right? Okay. So, you know, so that means as a district, since we are one district, kind of have to figure out how we're going to invest in that best practices component, in that what systems potentially we need to look at that we may need to evaluate in order to answer some of Dr. Culpepper's questions, right? You know, so I end with that, but we learned a lot from today. And I want to thank everyone, Chancellor, all the administrative staff for doing that. I am the last word, Chancellor, or were you going to say something?
No, you got it.
All right.